Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Deceptive Reality podcast. My name is Nick, and with me today and every day is the Iron Cash Bert.
Iron Cash, listen, hey, I like cash. I like iron. I can only assume Iron Cash is a good thing.
Heck yeah, they're always good. I would not lie to you on that part. Maybe I'd make up some facts, but never on the compliment.
Well, what's Iron Cash? I mean, I know in Fallout, bottle caps is that made of iron?
I think that's probably tin or aluminum, maybe.
Tin. You're right. I think it is.
But if you had a lot of bottle caps, you'd be wealthy, right?
I would be wealthy.
So an Iron Cash fella is someone who's wealthy, but too smart to lose all his cash.
That's me.
You got them bottle caps.
Got them bottle caps. You know what? I was a huge Fallout fan there for a while. In fact, I can't bring it over here. I've got a sign on my wall when I used to stream. No one ever noticed it, but it was on the very far corner, and it says Fallout Shelter, and it's got the little symbol.
Oh, yeah. And that's where you're recording from, the Fallout Shelter.
I'm basically in a Fallout shelter. Listen, no one knows. Nick and I have been taken into protective custody.
Yeah, it was necessary.
You're asking yourself, why? I have to pay homage to the owl beings because they're the ones we're hiding from. Look, they're on my shirt.
I've told you, no matter how much you suck up with that shirt, they're not going to forgive us.
They're going to forgive us.
It's too late.
Listen,
it's too late.
We'll be out of this cave before too long. This is really like I can't say where we're at, but it might be like a bat cave. I'm just saying.
It might be. So anyone who's listened to us for a while knows that owls are to blame for everything. And we've been long on to their case. We know what's up with them.
Think about all the times we saw it. Mothman.
Yeah, right. Every alien story.
Correct. Jeff the Mongoose.
Yeah. Hopkinsville Goblins.
Hopkinsville Goblins. I mean, there was another weird one that it was on. I'm like, why would owls be part of this? What the heck was it?
Oh, I can't remember. It wasn't that long ago either.
It wasn't, because I'm like, what's an owl got to do with this?
I know. But the point I'm making is it was so funny, and I told you about this while we weren't recording, but I've been watching that X-Men 97.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, because I loved the X-Men cartoon when I was a kid. And they've brought it back, and it's amazing, and it's more adult than ever, I would say. But there's one part where there's this mysterious demonic force in the background, and all you see is like red eyes, and you never see it. And sorry, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, turn it off right now. All of a sudden, and I laughed my butt off because this thing finally reveals itself. It's a giant GD owl. And I was like, gotcha. Yep.
You did tell me this.
I just had to tell the listeners because that was so amazing. Who rules the world? Owls.
Owls. Think about it. Bohemian Grove. What do they praise?
The big owl. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
the owls is everything.
What else can twist its head around and not die? That's weird.
But
all the way.
The only thing I've seen do that's Exorcist.
I can twist my head all the way around, but I can only do it once.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Sorry, that's a lame joke. Sorry.
I was a little nervous for a second. I'm like, listen, next week's podcast. Listen, we got Nick.
I could do almost anything I want, but maybe only once for things that are going to kill me. So
yeah, probably only once. Yeah. So this week is my week, which
I love these.
I'm excited about. Listen, I promised everyone that at the end of this one, I was going to reveal something that had happened. I might have lied. Listen, I knew it. I'm sorry. Listen, hey, this is such a big story that I don't want to ruin the other thing. So what I'm going to do is I might piece a few things together that plays into everything so I can go over that case. I want to I want to give this one enough space to breathe, and I want to give that enough space to breathe.
Right. These things are too big to coexist in a similar space.
Yes, because I said there's 3 things that combine this one thing. And so far we covered Roswell, big one.
One of the biggest.
Viewing.
Yeah.
Big one.
That one was fun.
And then there's this one. Now this one I think is going to be a lot of fun. Everyone knows it. You guys know it already because it's in the title. You guys read the title.
I keep forgetting that. How can I forget this every week?
But Nick doesn't know.
I don't know. That's why. I'm self-absorbed. I only think of myself. I don't understand that they can see the title.
Sometimes you got to think of yourself, Nick. That's what happens.
That's why you get the compliments at the beginning of the episode, because I can't say any of these about myself. I'm horrible.
Well, much like my other episodes, this is one story, one person all the way through. And it does not have that opening intro. We're going straight into story, and we're about 19 minutes of narration.
I like it.
Let's start you out so you can know exactly what we're talking about. You're going to know the story very well. We've talked about this story before, but we're going to dive into it because it's a big one. Behind Roswell, this might be the next biggest one that we've covered.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on.
November 5th, 1975 was supposed to be an ordinary workday for Travis Walton and his 6 fellow loggers. They were deep in the forests of the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, cutting trees as they had done countless times before. But that day, something would happen that would change their lives forever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows between the trees, the men decided to call it a day.
We're headed home when we saw a glowing object hovering near the road in the forest.
The object bathed the surrounding trees in an eerie, otherworldly light.
What is that?
Curiosity got the better of Travis. Despite the warnings of his colleagues, he stepped out of the truck and approached the mysterious craft. The forest around him seemed to hold its breath.
And was hit by a blast of energy from the craft. My coworkers, thought the power of that was so great, throwing me through the air. They said my body landed like a sack of meat, like there wasn't a bone in my body. So they said that they were immediately yelling to each other that he's dead, he's dead.
The men watched in horror as their friend was thrown through the air, his body landing heavily on the forest floor. They yelled in panic, convinced that Travis was dead. Panic set in. The loggers sped back to town, their minds reeling from what they had witnessed.
Oh man, that really got me going. I love that. I was rocking out to the music.
Yeah, man, this is what we try to do on these big ones. We try to make these as spectacular as we can.
Yeah, that took me to a place in time, and this is, everyone does know this story, I'm pretty sure.
It's a great story. I didn't know it as well as I thought I did.
I have a feeling I'm not going to either, because I only know it from one source. Do you know how most people heard about this story?
How?
Well, they did a movie off this, right?
I've never seen it, but yes, I do know that.
It's called Fire in the Sky.
Yes.
And it's horrifying. And do you know where they kept playing it over and over, at least in Canada? The Disney Channel.
They did?
I caught this on the Disney Channel thinking I'm going to get some cute ET story. And he's like coming out of slimy, dark tunnels. Things are terrifying. I don't know, but this might be part of like the trauma of aliens for me.
It very well could be.
Yeah, Disney. Come on, man.
I mean, I can appreciate that story, but I feel like that may have been Holly-weirded just a little bit.
Yeah. So that's where I know most of it from. So I'm going to get educated, I think.
Well, we're safe then. We're very safe.
Yeah.
You know, when I started building this story, I'm like, I know this story. I know this story pretty well. And there was a few things where I'm like, didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, and I know we're going to be talking about some things a little bit deeper than others, but think about it. There's a crew of people. There's 7 total out in this forest.
Right.
They've been working together for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there. They're cutting down trees. They cut down trees all the way until basically the sun has dropped pretty much all the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's probably common for lumberjacks, I think.
Oh, I'm sure. They're driving down this road. They all see this UFO.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Travis like, oh, man, I want to check this out.
Yeah. Big mistake, buddy.
Yeah, the other guy's is like, what are you doing, you tool shit? He walks up to it, and this burst of energy hits him, and he flies off.
I like how they described when he landed. He's like yeah, he's a sack of meat. He's dead, boys. We got to get out of here.
Correct. Now, here's the problem.
I think I know what the problem is.
What do you do with that info?
Oh, I don't know what I'd tell people. I'd be like, I'd have to stay because I'm like, if I leave here, I'm going to get arrested.
But think about it. Like, you can't not say something because your boss eventually is going to be like, where is Travis?
I'll forget the boss, the police.
Yeah, but think about it. Let's say that no one reports the crime.
Right.
Everyone's like, you don't say a word. You don't say a word. You don't say a word. You sure as heck don't say a word.
Yeah.
And then, like, all of a sudden it's pay week and they're like, why didn't Travis come pick up his check? I don't. Last time I saw him was last Tuesday. I assumed he called in. I don't know. Like, you can't say that.
Yeah. I don't think they'd even get that far because they got to report back. They've got all the company gear. They go back without Travis. The boss is going to know right away. They might say something like, oh, yeah, he took off separately. But as soon as the family or the cops come looking, the boss is going to be like, yeah, he was with those guys. I never saw him again.
Now, in the movie, how did they, because I've not seen the movie, how did they cover the beginning of this? Was it the same way? They was out working and then they're driving back and...
Well, it's been a long time. Remember, I was quite young when I saw this, but it seems to me they were out working just like it said on there. It got near sunset. They're doing the last load or what have you. And then something appears to them. And most of it, as I recall, was a bunch of like blinding flashes and cuts and stuff like that. Like, I didn't see any meat sacks that I recall, but
no meat sacks in that episode.
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
Disney missed out.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it said it in the narration or not, but they said it was almost like there was no bones in his body.
Yes, it did say that. It did say that.
Think about it. You can see this body going like a rag doll, no bones. Yeah. Now, there's no way after that happens, you're like, man, maybe he's still alive. Like, you're like, nope, he's dead.
Nah,
he dead, boys. Time to go.
I'd have to check on him. I'd have to.
If the UFO's still there and you watched him destroy, it literally destroyed this man right in front of your eyes, and it's still there.
I know, but my feelings, I think I can beat aliens, so I maybe go down the road a bit and wait. I don't know. I don't think I could leave him like that.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, Nick. If eventually, if we do some paranormal hunting, let's say sometime we're like, let's go find some UFOs or something. If I get bazanged by a UFO, just go. Just go.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Well, you remember the t-shirts I made there? The t-shirts I made. Be a man, fight a monster.
A monster is not a UFO. Okay. A UFO is a UFO. That's not a monster.
They got to come out sometime, and I'm ready. I'm going to introduce them to thunder and lightning.
Did you ever watch, it's kind of related. I feel like I sent this to you. Maybe I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Where the guy's in the back of the cruiser and he's handcuffed like this, and he's sitting there and he's kind of looking, and the cops like they're already at the police station. So he's flat out arrested. He goes, before I pull you out of the car, do you have any weapons on you? And the guy goes, yes. And he goes, you have weapons on you right now? And he goes, yeah. He goes, what do you have on you? And he goes, this left hand and this right hand.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And the cop goes, this isn't no time to joke. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. He goes, do you have any drugs on you? And he goes, I don't know. He goes, what do you mean you don't know? And he goes, I don't know. I mean, he may have been doing some drugs. The guy goes, if we take you in this jail and you have drugs, the guy goes, wait, am I going to get arrested? The cop's like, okay, I'm just getting this guy out of the car. I'm like,
yeah, I'll just send him home. He's learned his lesson.
Exactly. I got this weapon, this left hand and this right hand.
See, maybe what I'd do is I'd be like, oh no, aliens, and I'd run off, but then I'd sneak out. And when they come to pick you up, I'd jump out, clobber them.
Then you jump out.
Yeah. I know I'm going to get criticized for this again. No one thinks I can fight an alien.
I mean, they don't know you, Nick. They don't know your life. They don't know what you're capable of.
Yeah, I will damn clobber them.
Now, here's a question for you. Obviously, he got flung around like a rag doll.
Yeah.
Do you think it was intentional? Do you think that they shot him like a weapon?
I don't think so. I've heard a lot of stories where there's like a discharge that hits people a lot of times.
There is a story where there is a discharge. Yeah. That is true.
Yeah, I almost think, if I really think back, I almost think like maybe, because we've heard other stories where they accidentally injure people, and the only reason they take them is to fix them up again.
This is true.
So I don't think it was intentional.
The voice that we are hearing is from Travis Walton.
Oh, yeah. I recognized it, actually. So, I thought, this doesn't sound emulated.
This one was not emulated. We're going all in on this one. Now, the very ending of this entire thing, I didn't use a lot of his interview because I like him, but sometimes his speaking patterns is a little difficult, and I'm like, I'm just gonna tell the story at this point. We're already through the clearing. So
well, that's the good thing. We got creative freedom on that stuff. We can do it as we please.
We can do whatever we want. No one can stop us, Nick. No one can stop us.
Especially not aliens.
Yeah, aliens can't. Left hand and this right hand.
That's right. Stomach face, alien down.
So now we know what will happen to old Travis. Do you want to see what happened next?
I want to see if it gets as horrifying as it did on TV. So I'm excited. Let's do this.
Panicked and terrified, the men took off, desperate to get help. They raced back to town, but soon decided they needed to return and try to rescue Travis. Summoning their courage, they headed back into the forest.
They went and tried to get some help, but decided that they'd better return. They came back to see if they could rescue me. Took a lot of courage. I give them credit for that.
The forest was eerily quiet when they arrived, and the glowing craft was gone. Fear gripped them as they searched for Travis.
They had seen the craft leave, and, some of the crewmen were saying their greatest fear was what my body was going to look like, because it was just such a powerful thing that happened there.
But to their astonishment, Travis's body was no longer where it had fallen. The spot was empty, leaving them with the chilling realization that he had been taken. With heavy hearts and minds reeling, the men returned to town, debating whether to report the incident. They knew their story would be met with skepticism and disbelief.
They went back to town arguing about whether they should report this at all, because they knew it was going to be very difficult to believe. But they finally settled on reporting it to the sheriff.
That's one of them rough scenarios people don't think about in these situations.
No. Because that would be the hardest thing. Think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Sheriff, listen. We may have lost a friend of ours in the woods. And the sheriff's going to be like, what do you mean you lost him? Well, by lost him, we mean a UFO may have taken him.
You know what that is?
That conversation?
That you wouldn't get done saying that, and you'd be hearing the slam of the cell door behind you.
For sure.
That like you'd be arrested so quick. So quick.
Correct. Even if you went to Youngstown, Ohio, they would do that. And that's where that UFO was seen by like 9 officers.
Yeah. If we were somewhat famous enough that I could get away with this, I'd like to do an experiment where I go to the police station, try to report something like this, and see how quickly they put me in jail. Like, it'd be real quick.
Officer, my co-host was taken by UFOs. He was trying to do a Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. He was doing this meditation thing in the backyard. He was trying to call the UFOs, and they came, and then they zapped him.
Yeah.
And then I hid in the bushes, cocking my left and my right weapon. I went back to the deck. He was gone. I couldn't even find him, sir.
Yeah, and ignore that pile of blood at the base of that tree over there. You know what they'd be like before they arrested me? They'd be like, "Sir, if we search you, how much meth are we going to find in your pockets?" The only reason they might not ask me that is because they like, "Well, you got too much meat on you. You can't be a meth addict."
That is valid. You just offended some meth addict who's watching us and subscribed to us right now.
No, they're skinny.
Apologize, Nick.
I'm sorry. Don't sell your computer. Sorry. Yeah.
Can't cancel those that don't care.
That's right. I do care. Please seek help.
Well, yes. Please seek help.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, but anyway, I'd be in jail.
That officer would never believe it.
No.
But
you know what you'd have to do?
What?
You'd have to just say, our friend's lost in the woods. Can you please go find him? And then let them come to their own conclusion. That's what you'd have to do.
Here's the problem with that. I agree with you. I agree. Here's the problem. There's 7 total, including Travis. So there's 6 other people.
Right.
Even if, because we've all done it. Don't y'all pretend like this is a Bert thing only, you judgers. But you'd be like, hey, everybody, listen, we got to make sure the story's the same. Okay. We was with Travis. He's out there. Dropped his chainsaw, rolled down the hill. He went to go get it, never came back. 4 of the 6 is going to tell that story exactly the same, and 2 of them is going to be like, he dropped his chainsaw and it got stuck on a tree on the way down the hill. Then they go to the other 4 and they're like, your story's not exactly jiving. And then one person's going to be like, okay, we made it all up. That's what happens in every 48 episode.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, if you recall back to our Allagash abduction one, we had like 4 or 5 guys there, and all of them told the same story. And then one of them found out it was harming his business, so he flipped stories on him. Correct. Yep.
It reminds me of I watched a video today, actually. I think it was today. Yesterday, today it was one of those, and it was a guy who murdered a guy. Like flat murdered him, shot him in the car. Guy gets out the car, pops him twice, the Walking Dead style in the back of the head.
Right.
Now, police find out. Police pulls the guy in, and it's that where they got that camera up in the corner of the room. It's one of those videos, and the cops go in. They go, "Tell us your side of the story. Like what happened." So the guy tells this outlandish story. I'm sitting there going, "Okay, sir." So then they come back like an hour later and they're like, you know, we got a camera of it, right? And he goes, man, it's self-defense. I'm like, you've already lied once.
Yeah.
They're not going to believe you a second time.
No. You make a good point.
Yeah. And he's sitting there, he's like, man, he was swinging the gun around, he pointed at me, and then I got it out of his hand, and he put it in the cup holder, and I grabbed that cup holder, and I popped him. And they got out, and the guy's like, well, why'd you shoot him 2 more times in the back of the head after he fell out the car? He goes, man, you can't threaten me with no gun. I'm like, well, that's life in prison. You done screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Why didn't you tell us that? Anyway. Correct. Then you know what'd be messed up?
What?
No, I better let you finish because this is absurd what I'm going to say.
Well, the worst part was they asked him, they said, this was after he's like, okay, you can't see me on the camera, but I snuck in through the window. Which, first off, how do you sneaky snake yourself through the window to get a gun that's supposedly pointed at you to begin with? But whatever.
Right.
But they asked him point blank. They was like, if you could redo it again, maybe you shoot him the first time. But would you shot him twice in the back of the head after he fell out of the car? And he says, no, I wouldn't have done that. And they go, why? And he goes, you know what? You're right. I probably would have. And I'm like, death sentence now. You're just going in the wrong direction here, brother.
They did the real loop-de-loo on him.
They did. And then the best part is they was like, at first he said he didn't know who the guy was. Then he admitted that he knew who the guy was. Yeah. And then they're like, can we have your cell phone to see if you've been corresponding? Because we heard it's over a woman. Over a woman. And there may have been correspondence back and forth between you and him on your cell phone. And my favorite part of the guy goes, nope. Now I need my attorney. I'm like, it's on his cell phone. You just proved it, you idiot.
Yeah. Oh boy, that guy sucks at crime. He sucks at crime.
Luckily, he's going to be in prison until they kill him. So he doesn't have to worry about screwing up again.
Yeah. Sometimes once is enough. We don't need these guys getting smarter. Really?
No. Yeah, let's leave them at the brainwave that they're currently at. What was you going to say? Now I'm curious.
It's so stupid, but I just imagine, because I'm a gremlin at heart. And if I was an alien, I'd come down to my craft, stall someone's car, get out, pop their passenger twice in the back of the head with a gun, throw it on the seat and say, explain that, and take off. No one's going to believe you.
That one.
Yeah, no one's going to believe this.
No one's going to ever believe this.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny that you said gremlin.
Mm-hmm.
Not that this has anything. Everyone knows I'm a t-shirt connoisseur of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope that's really gremlin related. I love gremlins.
I bought a shirt. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Oh, yeah.
It's Gizmo with a freaking gremlin in the background.
I love it.
Like, yes.
That was my favorite movie when I was younger. Gremlins 2. I love that. Was good. Yeah, I wanted to grow up and be a gremlin. There
was not quite gremlin, but there was a movie that my dad watched when I'm a kid, and it scared me. It scares me to this day. Like, everyone talks about that movie as a kid that scares you.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the name of this movie is, but I remember it in my head. There was people that was ripping their skin off, and they was reptiles underneath.
Oh.
They'd go like this, and they just rip their skin off, and they were a reptile underneath. And I'm like, nope.
Oh, you must not like the reptilians then.
No, I do not. I do not.
Yeah, but I mean, we got off on a tangent there. Kind of. This is related.
Kind of in the same wavelength.
Yeah, so they're in a bit of a pickle now, because I also remember this from the movie vaguely, how they were basically just ridiculed. Everyone was not taking them seriously. Did that happen in real life?
Why don't we find out? Let's go to the next segment.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Back in town, the sheriff and his men began their investigation. Interviewing the loggers, they found them shaken, some still in tears, convinced that something terrible had occurred. Despite the emotional testimony, suspicions arose. The authorities began to suspect that the story was a cover-up for a more sinister crime.
They were certain that something terrible had happened, that some of the men were still crying, but their suspicions that this was some kind of a crazy cover-up story for a murder began. So during the 5-day search for me, with the idea that perhaps I'd been stunned and wandered off in a daze and was out in the woods somewhere, on the one hand, and of course they were looking for a body to be hidden there in some place.
A massive manhunt ensued. 50 men on horseback, aircraft, 4-wheel drives, and tracking dogs from the local prison scoured the forest. The loggers faced accusations of murder, but vehemently denied any wrongdoing, even volunteering for lie detector tests to prove their innocence.
The men were accused of the murder and denied it and said they'd take any test to disprove that, sodium pentothal, a polygraph, whatever. So they brought in the state police lie detector expert and tested the men. And when they passed, the sheriff was really quite surprised. And a lot of the lawmen, maintained the public posture that they didn't believe the story, but privately it came out over the years that they eventually did become, quite convinced that what had happened really happened.
In the wake of the incident, skeptics launched an onslaught of theories to discredit the story. Despite this, the men continued to pass polygraph tests, reinforcing their account of the event.
That kind of exposes another side of it too. Rough position for the police to be in if they do come around to believe these guys.
Correct. They really can't. Like, their hands are tied. They don't have a choice. They kind of have to accept the fact that these guys are in on whatever this is, and they've all figured out how to pass a polygraph test.
Right.
Now, it should be mentioned, they called in this expert to do the polygraph test. Mm-hmm. This guy is like world-renowned polygraph examiner.
Right.
And when they sat down to do the polygraph, he said one might be able to lie and pass. Mm-hmm. Another 1 or 2 might be inconclusive.
Right.
There's no way all 6 pass the polygraph. There's no way.
Yeah. And there's a lot of rumors about ways to trick the polygraph. But there is not a consistent way to trick it. I think your best outcome in that would be like you might get inconclusive or something like that.
Right.
So
that's part of the problem. And everyone's like, I could pass a polygraph. Bull crap. Because in the back of your mind, you're sitting there thinking, what if it figures this out? And then you become nervous, and then you've just gave it all the cannon fodder that you needed.
You'd have to give yourself serious brain damage, because thinking about something when you're being asked about it, it's almost like you can't directly control your heartbeat. Like, you can slow it and stuff like that, but it's going to keep beating you. You're not going to be able to think about it stopping, and it stops. Right?
Do you know what they say is the breathing is what controls the heart rate? Right.
And you can
you know what
see
you
that.
Can't control?
What's that?
Do you know what you can't control?
The rhythm?
Nope.
No?
The one thing on the polygraph test that makes it almost impossible to fool is the sweat mechanism.
Yeah, I had heard about that.
Your body cannot, there's no way you can control how much you sweat.
Right.
And they've got, these machines are fine-tuned now to where that's what it looks at very heavily. That's a big part of the polygraph test now, is how much you sweat.
I think, and this might be a wild theory on me, but I think it might never be in your interest to submit to a polygraph test. And the reason I say that is I bet that when it's wrong, it's more often like it might show you're telling it's not going to be wrong showing you're telling the truth. It's going to be wrong showing you're lying, because people have anxieties. People can convince themselves of different things. People sweat like when they're stressed out.
Correct.
So
And as good as that machine might be, doesn't mean that the examiner is good.
Yes. And I've heard some stories where they straight up lie about the results.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's not good either. And one thing I found interesting about the, they were asking for like sodium pentothal. I don't think back in those days that was something that they would do. They must have heard that from like a James Bond movie or something.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like, listen, we'll do anything.
Yeah.
E.T. took our friend.
Right.
We was in the bushes cocking our right hand and our left hand to go to battle.
And they took off.
They took off. Took our boy with them. I don't know what was happening. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like again, on the other side, let's say I'm a cop and I've known these guys my whole life, because maybe it's a small town. Maybe I believe them and maybe they pass all these tests. I can't come out as a cop and say, yep, aliens did it. I just can't.
Right. That's a no-win situation.
There's no court in the land that will ever take that.
I think that's why the court case "The Devil Made Me Do It" was so instrumental.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time they ever tried to say, well, a demon made me kill somebody. And I think that's what makes it so tough.
Yeah.
Aliens. I don't know. It's a very complex thing.
Is there more people who believe in demons or aliens?
I can tell you ghosts. I can't tell you demons. Ghosts. There was a poll done. I did this in one of my podcasts. There was a poll done in 2001, I think, or 2002. It's 2001 or 2002. And in that poll, 43% of people, or 46% of people, believe that there's some form of afterlife and paranormal.
Okay, that's pretty high.
UFOs. There was a poll that was done. I heard this, I think it was on Rogan. But UFOs was higher than that.
Yeah. I can picture
demons, that. I don't think I've ever seen a poll on demons.
But
that would almost fit into paranormal, kind of.
I think if you polled the same people on the ghost one, that the demons would almost exactly match up with those.
You would think that, but a lot of people, it's weird. I know a lot of people that believes ghosts, but does not believe demons.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me, but
they say it's because it's biblical and they don't believe in biblical text.
I don't know. If you come that far, you may as well like it. Well, okay. Here's another thing. Demons are not strictly biblical either. You know, they've got like Sumerian texts, which far predates a lot of that stuff, you know, from different cultures that never even met each other. Everyone has demons. So that's sort of a lame duck excuse, in my opinion. I would expect if people are being reasonable, if you believe in ghosts, you should believe in demons or evil spirits, but people can vote how they want.
That's a tough one. It's such a fringe area that it's difficult to get a reading on that.
Yeah, for sure. I know, personally speaking, my dad thinks ghosts are bullcrap, but he will never, ever say that aliens are not real. He fully believes in that. Like, he will argue about it.
A lot of people think that they are the same.
Yeah, and we've talked about that from different dimensions before.
Correct. There's a lot of people that believe that they are one and the same, that they're no different. In fact, who was it I was just listening to? A big name person. Tucker Carlson. They asked him about UFOs because I think they wanted to see him be shocked by something.
Yeah.
And he said that he thought they were demons.
Okay.
And I mean, that's a pretty big name when you think about it.
Yeah, I always forget who he is, but I know he's one of those guys in the debate circles, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. That's how I know the guy. He's a debater.
Yeah.
He just
when I was
Putin,
oh sorry.
Like
did he?
5 months ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I hope he's not like supporting him or anything.
It was very controversial. A lot of people said he was supporting him just by giving him a platform.
I hate
what he
to
said
hear
was,
that.
Well, it was tough because, again, and you and I have talked about this.
Right.
Giving someone a platform is not necessarily such a bad thing because sometimes you learn from people in platforms. I think that everyone should have a voice.
Agreed.
But it's a
don't assist them in spreading negative things or anything, but like if it's informational, like Putin's part of a big war right now, and I do not support him at all, but I would interview him if I got the chance, because this is how we find out what someone's motivations are or whatever. Like,
he would never come to our interview though, Nick.
I don't know if he'd have anything to talk to about this.
What are you talking about?
You think he's into the owl conspiracy?
Yes.
He might be in on it. You know.
He might. Listen. Wasn't it Russia, they said, found all those aliens underneath the water, and that's where part of their technology came from?
Man, this does seem like we have talked about this. Yes.
And think about it. He wouldn't come here because of his left hand and his right hand.
That's right. He can get pummeled from two directions coming up here.
Weapons of mass destruction.
That's right. We ain't having that. But we'll ask him questions while we're pummeling him.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's our lie detector.
Tell us where the owls are.
Yeah.
Tell us where they're at.
Right. But yeah, interviewing someone is not giving them a platform. Interviewing them is finding out information.
And listen, we are going to be looking at a whole bunch of different stories as time goes on. And eventually we may have a controversial subject come up, and that's fine. Yep. My standpoint is, if there's a story attached, I'm here to tell the story.
Yep. Same here.
Doesn't mean that I agree with the story or that I believe the story.
Yeah. Heck, let's look at our Bigfoot episode, for example.
Yeah.
That was, you know what? I think we've gone far enough past it now. That's one of the stupidest stories I ever told.
I think that is a difficult Bigfoot story. I think there's a lot better probably out there.
Yeah. That guy was out to lunch.
That's one of the most famous ones.
It is.
But in the same regard, we provided a platform for it.
Yeah. Well, we relayed information.
Correct. It's our job to provide everyone with a story.
Yeah.
It's up to you what you want to believe and how you want to believe it.
Yep. That's right.
And unfortunately for Travis's cohorts, they're not believing their story.
Let's put ourselves in this. If you were in that town and you heard that, what would you think?
Oh, they killed this guy.
Yeah, me too. Sorry, guys.
100%.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry. Listen, I just want to know where you hid the body.
Who believes in aliens more than us two fellas?
Correct.
I still don't believe him.
I'd have been like if I would have watched that video today and the guy was like, I don't know how he died, officer. I saw an alien come down and put two in the back of that guy's head. I'd have been like,
really though? Really?
I think that's a little suspect.
Yeah, right. And we want to believe, but
think about this though. Unlike today, I feel like today we wait a little bit before we go on a manhunt.
Yeah.
50 men on horseback.
Right.
Aircraft. Dogs. Guys are on quads. they're scouting this forest trying to find this guy. And it came up empty-handed.
Yeah. I've heard in a lot of places they won't, like, it's got to be like 48 hours before they'll even look for someone.
Right. They have to be missing for whatever the time is. 24 or 48 hours before they'll even start.
Now, I'll tell you, around here, we've got, man, got to be the best search and rescue. Like, do you guys have that search and rescue departments?
We do, but good luck getting the full-on smorgasbord.
These guys are just waiting. Like, I've met some of them and talked to a lot of them and known a bunch of them. They would do anything for anyone, and the moment they're called, doesn't matter what they're doing, they're out there. Like, people say someone's missing in the woods, they're out there the next half hour. Like, right away.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have the Canadian Mountie? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
That's it.
Yeah. They don't all have horses, but...
then that is a lie. They need to change their name then.
Like, on special occasions, but they're not running around on horses most of the time.
Doesn't count. That is false advertising. I want to see a little horse.
It is a little bit.
That would be like going to the UK and they've got the Queen's Guards out there.
Right.
And instead of being on horses, they're on Segways. I mean, like this, you can't call yourself mounted. That Segway doesn't count, sir.
Right. Well, it's like
same thing.
We got levels of tradition. They're full British. We're British owned, and you're not British at all. And that just leads to how many horses each of us have.
That is valid. You're probably right on that.
Yeah. As for the police, I don't. I'll say this: I've met some spectacular police who I believe are out there doing a great job and are super nice. I was in a roadblock once and they were even joking with me. They pulled a little fast one on me. They're like, "Sir, do you know your plates are expired?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, no." And they're like, "Nah, just messing with you." We all had a big laugh about it. You know, those are the good cops that I can.
Those are the good ones.
Yeah, and they're out there.
See, here in the States, they're like, "Did you know your tail light's broken?" You're like, "It is?"
Yeah.
Now it is.
Yeah, we got some good cops. We got some bad cops too.
Questionable
cops. But I'll tell you, search and rescue, top notch.
Top notch.
Oh yeah.
Top shelf.
Yeah. Like, even if I went down and said there was aliens, just on the off chance that someone's actually lost, they're gonna go out there looking for him. They would have been looking for Travis right away.
Could you imagine? Now, since I'm thinking about it, like, our police can be kind of buttholes from time to time.
Right.
Many are nice, but there's a couple of buttholes. But like, Canada's different. Could you imagine they break a taillight and they'd be like, "Sorry, I'm sorry. I'll replace it."
Oh, they would end up having to.
Then the guy's like, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been pulled over. No, I'm sorry. I should have gave you a little bit of a break. No, I'm sorry. I didn't roll my window down fast enough. No, I'm sorry. Took me a while to get off my horse." You know,
it's funny because we do have what we call the Canadian standoff, where it does go back
for
like thank yous and those stories. Like, if you say thank you to someone, they'll thank you even if they did the thing for you, and then you thank them for that. Yeah, we waste a lot of time up here.
Listen, but you guys are lovable people.
Well,
lovable.
We got some people that aren't great here either, but it is a slightly different culture. But I mean, our countries are real similar anyway, and we're getting more similar all the time.
That is true. We're corrupting you guys.
Well, maybe there's we're getting better in some ways and worse in some ways, and you guys are getting better and worse in some ways. So we'll see. It's an experiment.
That's a very Canadian way of saying that, Nick.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up.
No, thank you for thanking me. See, you got it. You can immigrate here anytime you want.
I can immigrate anytime, and I get my pass. Now, speaking of thank yous, obviously, Travis's boys, they're not getting a whole lot of thank yous over there. In fact,
no.
Lock, stocked, and barreled.
Yeah. It wasn't good times for them.
What happens next? Oh,
yeah, I do. Like, it's going to get worse.
You know, we're getting to some meat and potato parts. I'm a little curious what you're going to think of.
The nightmare wasn't over for Travis Walton. Regaining consciousness, he found himself in a place beyond his wildest fears.
The next thing I knew, I was regaining consciousness. I didn't know where I was, but I gradually, once I was able to finally focus my eyes and see these creatures standing over me, realized that I had been taken aboard the craft.
The terror was immediate and overwhelming. Travis found himself in the presence of alien beings, their eyes intelligent and unearthly. The realization was a shock to his system.
It was terrifying. Many things came together to run the fear factor up to the max because, first of all, to feel that I'm in the presence of alien creatures, of course, very strange to look into the eyes of an intelligent creature that's not human. Everything else surrounds that. That was a central thing.
Travis struggled to breathe, feeling as though he was suffocating. The confined, humid space, dimly lit and oppressive, added to his sense of panic. He felt mortally wounded, trapped, and desperate to escape.
At the same time, the feeling that I was mortally wounded, that there was something very wrong inside. And it was claustrophobic because of the humidity, the warmth, the confined space, the dim lighting. All of that, made me feel trapped, and the feeling that I needed to defend myself or to flee, and feeling that I could barely move.
Panic surged as Travis tried to comprehend his surroundings. The creatures stared at him, their gaze unsettling and intense. He recoiled, a desperate attempt to distance himself from them.
So all these things came together to make it interpreted as the most threatening event of my life. As soon as I recoiled and backed away from them, and these three creatures were staring at me together, it gave me a very weird feeling, a very uncomfortable feeling in my head.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot of some of the scenes from the movie, but it reminds me more of sleep paralysis. Like the feeling you've got to flee, but you're confined, like you want to fight or do anything, but you can barely move. It's claustrophobic,
It's very interesting that you said that, because it's almost like we did an episode on sleep paralysis.
Isn't that weird?
That's pretty weird, Nick.
Yeah.
In fact, that episode comes out tomorrow in our real world, which is June the 7th. We're recording this on June 6th.
Never keep this straight. All these time frames. It's like we're bouncing around in Back to the Future.
We really are. It's kind of crazy. It's funny because I was looking at what we've got, and we have no two-parters in any of our stuff right now. Everything's a one-parter.
Mm-hmm.
And when this episode comes out, we just released last week Project 8200.
Right.
Tomorrow, which is for these people now a few weeks back, is sleep paralysis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we've got two more, and then we're recording this one. So this is technically, we're 4 weeks ahead?
Yeah,
this will be the fourth week.
Yeah, we'd like to be around 4 or so. That's our
4 is the magic number.
Yeah, that's
if I had a year's worth of them,
oh yeah,
I would take it all day long.
Oh yeah, maybe one day. For a while there, we were addicted to two-parters, so we got a bunch of stuff ahead there. So
little cushion.
Yeah,
the cushion. I like having a buffer though, because if there's an error with one, it gives us more time to work on it.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, even though we are full-time in our bunker here, sometimes there's holidays and sometimes we have to travel. So,
Correct.
Go to the surface and get some canned peas.
Correct.
Yeah.
Some canned peas and some Nuka-Cola.
That's right. Got to have that Nuka-Cola. I like the sugar-free Nuka-Cola myself, though.
I like the cherry.
Yeah. There's
Cherry
something for
Nuka-Cola.
everyone. Please sponsor us, Nuka-Cola.
Yeah, Nuka-Cola. Man.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy when you think about, for us, with these podcasts, we have a pretty good wide arrangement of different topics. It's hitting all at the same time frame.
Right.
Like all 4 of these next ones are, and Nick and I, we talked about this, I think for you guys, it'd have been like a week or 2 before this episode. But, we talked about what we need to do is once a month have one topic that we both know, we both research, and we both come to the plate. And I'm not going to say too much about this, but Nick and I have that coming up. And it's going to be a Deceptive Reality podcast first.
Right. I'm so pumped.
Which is super exciting. Me too. I'm super excited for it. It's going to be our first ever interview is all I'm going to say.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not, so I'm keeping my yap shut. It's for the best.
Luckily, I've done a couple now, Nick. I'm over in my podcast. I've had some time to navigate these.
You know where they don't really like when Tom Holland goes on talk shows because he keeps accidentally saying stuff. Yeah, I'm the Tom Holland of this. I'm not saying anything more. That's all I have to say on this topic. So how about them aliens?
But it's exciting. We got some first coming. The cool thing is on that one, we're both going to know the topic, but it'll be a different format for everyone. So that's going to be pretty exciting, I think. A lot of big things coming to the channel, so you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, trust me, you're going to want to subscribe.
Heck for that. Yeah. Here's the clickbait. You won't believe what happens next.
You won't believe what happens next. That's right. So definitely want to check that out for sure. Subscribe. Right. Hit that doggone subscribe button.
That's right, Joe.
Freaking Joe. So now we got freaking, and we talked about this.
Yeah.
Old Travis waking up in the UFO.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about it. For him, I'd have to assume this would be like a car accident.
Yeah.
You're conscious and you're unconscious, and then you wake up, you open your eyes, and there's things that are unhuman staring at you.
And he said he felt mortally wounded, which would fall into with what the guy said.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, you would believe, I would assume, you would believe that these entities did that to begin with. So now, why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
Are they trying to kill me? Are they trying to take my organs? Are they playing with me like prey?
I don't think he... So I know I talk about want to fight aliens and all this stuff, and I'm scared of them. But I think that they accidentally injured him real bad. Like they might have actually killed him. And they're like, crap, we can't do a hit and run. Let's bring this guy on board. We're pretty advanced. Let's fix him up. And he wakes up when they fixed him to the point that he's not he's just at the point where he can be conscious a little bit. And in the movie, it was all like red lights and he was going in and out of consciousness all the time and flashes of darkness and light and all that stuff. I think they were repairing him and it was a process and they had to keep him constrained. It was probably humid because of the medical procedures. Like that's how I interpret what's going on here.
Very well could be. I know that there's stuff coming up, so I can't say too much about it. I was a little confused by the human part.
Right.
That part kind of confused me. That didn't make a lot of sense to me because I'm like, why would this be human? Like that doesn't, like when I think of UFOs, I think of a very humid free area.
Right. Like
is what I
very sterile, cold environment a lot of the times.
Yes.
Now, how they portrayed it in the movie, and again, this is a long time ago, it was like almost a very organic ship, or at least where they were keeping him was very like almost a living ship kind of part. There was like membranes and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's a little.
Yeah, someone's going to come on here and be like, I don't know what movie you watched, but that's how I'm remembering it. I'm sorry.
They're like, what movie did you watch? We're not talking about Fly the Navigator. We're talking about Fire in the Sky.
I specifically remember him like he gets well enough that he's conscious consecutively and he can move around and he's like tearing through slimy membranes and stuff.
I hate to disappoint folks, but I can tell you that does not happen in my narration.
All right. I'm assigning myself homework. I'm going to watch Fire in the Sky again after this episode. And I might end up retracting everything I'm saying about this.
I might also go watch Fire in the Sky so I can understand what's going on.
Don't mind my hands. Don't mind my hands that look like I'm looking something up on the internet on my phone.
Oh, this is always interesting because the internet's our best friend most of the time, Nick.
I'm really curious how much of this I'm like making. Oh, no.
How much you're making up of this?
No, I definitely saw some of this stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's not really a ton of UFO movies.
No, there's not. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I remember this.
The third time. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
E.T.
Mm-hmm.
Flight of the Navigator.
That's more like a adventure kind of thing, isn't it? Or are we counting that
It's
anyway?
on a Disney Channel account.
All right.
Mac and Me.
Yeah.
Is there any others that I've not thought of that's like major movies?
They're Disney related? I don't think Mac and Me was. Anyway, there's not a ton. But I just looked up some screenshots on this movie. And there's like membranes and stuff.
There's, when you think about it, a lot of times that they Holly weird things.
Yeah.
This is probably just a case of
I think that's what was going on. Probably so.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to make it look as horrifying as possible so that...
To kids, for no good reason.
I think someone messed up. I don't think this was made for kids.
Yeah, probably.
It just ended up on the Disney Channel. I don't know why.
And then they warp all these poor kids for life.
Yeah, and then they
like Nick.
Then they turned into podcast hosts. That's what happens. That's how we're born.
Mine was watching reptile people getting their skin ripped off.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that can lead you here, but this is where you end up if you get messed up. Sure.
You know, I think to myself though, if it was a case like if I felt like I was mortally wounded,
right,
I would be so apprehensive and ready to fight. Like at that point, there's no flight. You can't go anywhere.
Right.
So the only thing you can do is fight.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's the next segment or the segment after that. I think it's the next segment. It goes into a very interesting thing that I'm shocked that if this is how they're doing this, I'd be shocked. But it goes around to another conversation. I'm curious what you think it reminds you of. And I think it's the next segment. Let's check it out.
Yeah, let's check it out.
It's the next segment. If so, we're going to have conversations because I want to know your opinion.
You've piqued my interest, that's for sure.
5 days had passed since Travis Walton's inexplicable disappearance. The forest had been scoured, the townspeople were on edge, and the loggers who witnessed his vanishing were left with more questions than answers. But the story was far from over. In the dead of night, on an unfamiliar road, Travis awoke. The rain poured down, soaking his clothes as he lay there disoriented and weak. Above him, a bright light pierced the darkness. As Travis turned his head, he saw the underside of a craft, the same craft that had taken him. The engineering was strikingly beautiful, intricate, and unmistakable. He knew it was the same ship from the forest. In an instant, the craft shot into the sky, leaving Travis in total darkness. Struggling to his feet, he felt depleted, dehydrated, and desperate. He had to find help, or he would die out there. Mustering all his remaining strength, Travis began to stagger down the road. His determination turned to adrenaline-fueled desperation as he pushed forward, driven by the will to survive. Up ahead, a rest stop appeared like a beacon of hope. He stumbled towards it, finding a payphone. With trembling hands, he fished out some change from his pocket and dialed his brother's number. On the other end, his brother answered, disbelief and shock evident in his voice. Travis's brother couldn't believe he was hearing his voice. Travis was presumed dead. "It's me," Travis repeated, trying to convince his brother. "They brought me back." He described his location, recognizing the rest stop in Snowflake, Arizona. When his brother arrived, he found Travis in a dazed, almost catatonic state. Travis struggled to understand what had happened. To him, only moments had passed since he saw the craft in the clearing, but his brother's words hit him like a sledgehammer. He had been missing for 5 days. The revelation was overwhelming. Travis was in shock, unable to comprehend the lost time. He sat in silence, his mind racing but unable to form coherent thoughts. His brother asked what had happened, but Travis had no answers. Travis Walton's return was as mysterious as his disappearance. The 5 missing days remained a blank, a void filled with fear and confusion. The truth of what transpired in those lost hours stayed locked within his traumatized mind.
He just got out of an alien hospital is what I'm interpreting this as.
Very true. I'm going to bring this up. This may come in the future. He said that the way he was very confused because they were staring at him as though they were trying to hypnotize him.
Interesting.
Almost telepathically. So it's like they were trying to get into his mind through the form of hypnosis, similar to someone like holding a stopwatch or something. And
right.
But he said that all of them was staring at him intensely, like they was trying to stare through his soul. So
you were going to ask me what that reminds me of, right? Now, yes. I don't know if I'm going to get this right or wrong, but the first thing I thought of when you started saying that was when we did the Allagash abductions, how one guy said that they were all sitting there on a bench looking straight forward as if they were hypnotized. His buddies.
Yes.
Yeah. Correct. That's the first thing I thought of.
That is creepy.
Yeah.
And another thing that I thought of is almost like mind control. What do you piece together with mind control in the other subjects that we talk about?
Well, there's a lot of things with that, but I think what the aliens use it for is repressing memories and stuff.
For sure. Kind of like Men in Black in reverse, right? But what I mean is, we talk about one subject matter all the time that goes around controlling someone.
Right.
Demonic possession.
Yep, that's right.
Because they get inside the person and then they control what's going on. And I feel like there's a parallel there.
Well, there is too, because if you look at it before they get to, like, and I always confuse the steps of this, but they put them through the ringer before they get to that stage. So that's like the, what is it? Was it depression, suppression, or oppression? I forget which stages those were.
So the way it works is they always go through a form of depression,
right?
Oppression, possession,
right? And that's when I think they're staring at him. That's when they're going. Like, I can see parallels to that.
Yes. I don't know. I find it very interesting that he said they're all staring at him intently, and we dealt with the same thing with Allagash.
Right. And almost all abductions come with suppressed memories and stuff like that. Now think to the parallel that we do with hypnotists and stuff like that. How they, they can hypnotize you to forget things. They can hypnotize you. Like one of the things they do is they say, all right, when I snap my fingers, you're going to act like a chicken. And then after that, there's like, when I snap my fingers again, you're going to wake up with no memory of this. Right?
Right, exactly.
And
they got to be good hypnotists, though.
Yeah. And what always happens later, though, is later on, these memories start to come back over time because hypnotism isn't perfect. Aliens might be way better at it than we are, but it seems to be the same thing.
Right. Well, with hypnotists, most of the time it's you have to be susceptible.
Right.
That's the thing that they say. Howie Mandel is probably the best example of that. With that hypnotist that was on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
The hypnotist came on there, and after however long it took him to get Howie under, he's able to shake his hand.
Mm-hmm.
He had Howie shake everyone else's hand.
Right.
The problem was after he set him back, later on when Howie Mandel saw that video, he was completely distraught. Because that's his worst fear, is germs.
Yeah.
And he was susceptible to all of that.
So that made him even worse. I think we had talked about this once before. And I don't think we were recording when we talked about that, were we?
I don't think so.
Well, at the risk of repeating ourselves, my dad went and got hypnotized for smoking.
I think we did cover that.
Yeah, he quit cold turkey that day. Then all of a sudden, like a flash, like I think it was like a decade later, he just picked it up as if he never stopped. Like it suddenly wore off.
Right.
Yeah, this stuff isn't perfect.
Well, and I wonder if that's a brain chemistry thing also.
Like reforming pathways, maybe. Yeah.
Very much so. Because as we age, our brain is going to go through certain changes.
Right.
And maybe it's just taking a different neuron path that opens that up and makes it susceptible.
Yeah. Well, I know brains have sometimes been severely damaged. Like people have lost huge chunks of their brain, and over time, it can rewire itself to have as much, if not almost as much functionality as it would have had initially.
Oh, for sure. Have you seen that video of that interview of that guy that was the first guy to get that Neuralink?
I didn't, but I saw some of the things he could do. I
mean, it's crazy. He hasn't been able to do any of that stuff in forever.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Now he can type just like me. But do it without moving a hand.
Yeah. That's the future.
Think about that. You're thinking about typing. Absolutely it is.
Yeah, we're going to have cyberpunk any day.
Oh, yeah. Big time. It's insane to think that that's even a possibility.
It is, because we're moving towards a realm where we could potentially achieve some kind of immortality, maybe.
For sure.
Why?
At least electronically.
Yeah.
Like, we keep talking about this subject. We're going to have to do a podcast on it. The Anunnaki.
Yeah.
When they talk about the Anunnaki and that whole storyline and the emerald tablets and all that stuff, you know, one of the things that they talked about is that there was one of the people, I forget who, that I'm not a great scholar in this. We're going to have to wait till we do a podcast. But basically, one of them said they could reincarnate themselves in any body that they found. Well, what does that sound like? It sounds like possession, even there.
Yeah, it kind of does.
So is that a case where we're just misinterpreting what a possession is? Or are we not assuming what he's talking about is a possession and just calling it something else, because that's exactly what a possession is. Now, the question goes, if that happens, where does the other person or the other soul or the other entity go?
Right. Well, there's this saying that sufficiently advanced science appears like magic.
For sure.
Have you ever heard of a show called Altered Carbon?
No.
Well, in that show, it's like in the future, everything about you is stored in these discs, like metal discs that are in the base of your skull, like right around your neck. And instead of, they can put you in bodies that they grow. And that would be like possession of that body. And for travel, instead of you getting on a ship and traveling for 25 years, they transfer your consciousness and they call it re-sleeving you in another body at your destination. Like that's pure possession.
That's crazy.
At that stage, we would appear to be possessing people like we think that demons possess people now.
Correct.
Right?
It's pretty creepy.
Yeah. I like the idea of it, to be honest.
Nick wants to possess somebody.
If I could, I'd be doing it tomorrow.
For the record, Bert would not.
Yeah.
Because that is satanic.
Well, yeah.
Potato.
Listen, I can't make a soul omelet without breaking a few eggs.
It's pretty crazy, though, to think that in the case of what we're talking about with old Trav,
yeah,
I feel like we're on a first name basis with Travis right now. We can come up with like enduring names, Trav.
Yeah, we don't have to call him Mr. Walton necessarily.
Yeah, Mr. That's too formal.
Yeah.
Listen, he knows us. Come on the podcast. We're doing interviews now.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I feel like when you look at the story, he's walking down the road. He just regained. He looks up. He sees this thing fly off.
Right.
Now, what do you do if you're him?
You got to find anything familiar.
You don't think they're going to come back?
Oh, get the heck out of there is what I'd be doing probably.
I would assume, but he must be fixed back to the point to where he's at least able to move now.
What? I don't think he has like permanent injuries. What if they re-sleeved him? What if they grew him a new body and transferred him into it, and that's why it took that long?
Man, get out of my head, Nick. That's what.
Oh, sorry. I should have let you do that. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's literally what we was just talking about.
Yeah, he's re-sleeved.
Because remember, they said when his body hit, it was like meat with no bones.
Yeah, he'd at least have scars.
Bones,
like,
I don't know, Nick. Why don't we listen to the next thing and see what they say?
Yeah. Man, I think we're onto something.
Travis's brother, concerned for his sibling's health, made a decision. Instead of alerting the authorities immediately, he chose to take Travis to a hospital. He knew that once the media caught wind of Travis's return, chaos would ensue. They drove to Phoenix, Arizona, seeking discreet medical attention. At the hospital, Travis's brother pleaded with the doctors to keep their visit confidential. The doctors, aware of Travis Walton's story from the news, agreed to conduct a thorough examination. The doctors found Travis malnourished, exhausted, and in a weakened state. Despite his overall poor condition, there were no significant physical injuries. However, they discovered a single puncture mark on his arm, a perplexing detail. Travis was not a drug user, so the puncture mark raised questions. It appeared as if someone had recently inserted a needle into his arm. Intrigued, the doctor ordered blood tests and drug screenings. The results were surprising. There were no traces of drugs in Travis's system. Despite the puncture mark, his blood was clean and no substances were detected. Aside from his evident physical depletion, Travis was given a clean bill of health. The mystery deepened. Travis's physical condition provided no answers to the questions that haunted his family and friends. The puncture mark hinted at a strange intervention, but the truth remained elusive.
That's interesting.
It's interesting from two different perspectives. Firstly, in my opinion, they find puncture wound, but they do all these tests, no drugs that we know of.
Right.
Now, if they're trying to hypnotize him with their eyes, why would there be a puncture wound?
That's a good question. They wouldn't need to sedate him or anything if they could hypnotize him.
Correct.
I'm still thinking what we were talking about before we listened to that segment. This is like a...
What do you mean?
New grown...
Re-sleeve?
Re-sleeve, new grown body. They were hypnotizing him to transfer him into it.
It's a very curious thought.
What I was hoping to hear, and I mean, I don't know how you'd even test this, but I was wondering if something was going to come up saying it was curious because they found that his body was younger than it should have been or something like that, you know?
Here's the thing. I don't think that they ever tested.
No, I don't know how you would, really.
I think that it would be a case where he would have to acknowledge, listen, something's different or something feels different. Or it's kind of like the people that have, what's that called? Basically limb replacement, like someone...
Like phantom limbs or whatever.
Yeah. But what's weird is sometimes when that happens, they have cravings for different foods, which is that's just a weird concept in and of itself.
It kind of is, but in some ways it is. But a lot of times you can crave things that you're deficient in that you don't consciously make the connection of. Right?
So would that come from these organ replacements?
Could very well be. I mean, depending on their like knowledge of human anatomy, like he's coming back like a little bit skinnier, like emaciated, I think they said, and dehydrated and stuff. You'd think if they're that technologically advanced, they would have kept him hydrated and with food and stuff.
For sure. It doesn't make sense, does it?
No. And why a needle if there's nothing injected into him? Like,
right.
Crazy.
That doesn't make sense.
No.
None of this makes sense to this point.
No, I mean, I guess that's the nature of the beast we're looking at, isn't it? Like, none of it really makes sense.
But it's just so odd. It's just so odd that there's nothing.
And that's interesting.
It's very curious. At a minimum, it's very curious.
See, maybe I'm getting ahead of this, or maybe we don't even know. But has he ever had any kind of health problems since, or...
I didn't see where he's had any that has shown.
Right.
But that's not to say that I just didn't find it.
Research. Like that's something that we might not have come across. But the reason I'm thinking about that is imagine that they create this body for him. Looks identical to his body in every way. But maybe because they created it themselves, maybe they didn't include the flaws that our human bodies normally have. Maybe he got old and he's in incredible health, like no problems.
Here's the thing. Have you seen it's on TikTok now, the fake foods? Have you seen that?
No.
There's a video going around. I'm going to see if I can add it to this podcast. So Nick won't be able to see it, but the rest of you will. I'll try to find it.
Screwed once again. No, just kidding.
These people create this TikTok and he hands a banana over and says, hey, check this banana out. And you see them open up the banana and then they completely bend the banana around like a toy. But it's a banana. Which bananas don't do that.
Right. Was this genetically modified?
What their theory is much like 3D printed meat. Maybe they're 3D printing produce now.
Oh. I mean,
have you seen this 3D printed meat?
I have seen some of that.
I mean, they're literally on a machine going meat, making meat with fat. Now, would you eat something like that, Nick?
I'd try just about anything. I don't know if it'd be my favorite, though.
Here's the thing. For me, I'm not trusting anything being inside of my body that has been created as a food from a machine.
I will definitely try it. So I'll let you know how it is.
How do you know that that's not going to affect with you?
Roll the dice. There's things that affect us every day that we don't even think about. You know how everyone loves wood heat from a stove, right? People who have wood stoves or wood furnaces in their house inhale particles of smoke. That is the equivalent of smoking 4 packs a day.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Like there's all kinds of stuff like that. The microplastics in the water that are now in our plants and our seafood, just like if you went out and bought a carrot now, you're ingesting more than an unhealthy dose of microplastics every single time. It's gotten into everything. So how I look at this is, sure, I don't know necessarily what's in this produced meat, but there's 2 things I know. Is one is it's not going to contain the terrible things that we are eating that's giving us cancer all the time, and 2, it's poor business to kill your consumers. So, but
that is valid.
But I'd try it. I'm not gonna. I can guarantee it's not gonna taste as good as a steak I can make. There's no way.
Well, what if it is? What if it does?
Then I eat.
What if it tastes better than a steak you could get?
Then I eat it. That's right.
Nick's like, I don't even care what the repercussions are. This is delicious.
If I get sick from it, I'm just possessing another body.
Nick has this all planned out.
I got this all planned out. Fight aliens. Eat questionable lab-grown meats. Possess other humans.
Seems legit to me. I don't know why anyone would even question
Number 4, profit.
Well, we obviously heard with Mr. Travis, there's all kinds of questionable things.
Right.
Let's see what happens next.
Yeah.
I want to fit this into a one-parter. Yeah. Let's see what happens next.
We got this.
With Travis looking ragged and exhausted, his brother decided it was time to take him home to Phoenix, Arizona. The drive was tense, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on them both. No sooner had they arrived home, the phone began ringing nonstop. The news of Travis's return had reached the sheriff's department in Snowflake, Arizona. They were desperate to speak with him. Sheriff Gillespie made the long drive to Phoenix, determined to get answers. He arrived at Travis's home, finding him in a state of shock, his appearance confirming the ordeal he had endured. Sheriff Gillespie observed Travis closely. He appeared traumatized, his eyes vacant and his body language tense. This did not seem like a man concocting a story. The sheriff began his questioning. Travis recounted seeing the UFO in the clearing, being struck by a mysterious light, and waking up on a road 5 days later. The gaps in his memory were vast and troubling. Travis's account was fragmented, his confusion evident. He couldn't explain what had happened during the 5 missing days, and his memories were a blur of fear and disorientation. Sheriff Gillespie, despite his initial skepticism, couldn't find any proof of wrongdoing. Travis's state was too genuine, too raw to be an act. With no evidence to support any charges, he had no choice but to let Travis be. Sheriff left, promising to stay in touch. The mystery of Travis Walton's disappearance and the missing 5 days remained unsolved. a puzzle that left more questions than answers.
You know what really helped them? He already went and got tested for every drug they could imagine. They can't say like everyone's judged him like this guy is legitimate freaking out. It's not drug related. He didn't lose memories from some kind of, weird trip or anything.
Right.
So still a tough situation to deal with. On the last segment, I forgot to ask, how far was where they found him from where he normally lived?
Pretty decent distance.
I thought so.
I forget exactly what it was, but
yeah, I thought so because he didn't recognize it, right?
He did not recognize it yet.
Yeah.
He walked all the way down to that telephone booth, and the first person he called was his brother.
Yeah.
Now, if you're his brother, think about it. You're getting a call from a dead man.
Right. You saw him. Wait, was his brother one of the guys?
His brother wasn't there, but he had saw him.
Yeah, okay.
Before this work thing,
mm-hmm.
And then he disappears, and it's like you're supposed to be dead because everyone's going to the family too. Like, hey, have you seen Travis?
Yeah.
We think these 6 guys murdered him in this forest.
Yeah, because they got this crazy story.
Apparently, they said UFOs got him. Whatever.
The kind of sad part is I know how this would go down. So they find Travis, and all those guys are kind of vindicated. Like, see, we told you. But now everyone's going to be like, they're not going to be like, oh, maybe they're telling the truth. Now they're going to be like, They set up this hoax with Travis. And I think that's what it was getting at, where the sheriff was like, I want to lay charges, but I can't figure out what.
Correct.
Yeah.
At this point, he's just got to give up.
Right.
The other thing I thought of, as soon as I heard Sheriff Gillespie, the first thing I thought of was Circleville letters.
Yeah, right. He's like, I can't believe I've had to deal with 2 of these things. It's the same guy. No, just kidding.
It's the same doggone
Yeah,
guy.
he's like, I am never going to get done filling out police reports. Never.
Yeah, there's never. This is why we're just going through the Circleville letters again. That's what it is. UFOs in that one too.
I can kind of feel this guy's pain because at work, sometimes I have to write explanations of the investigations that I do when something goes wrong. And sometimes it's hard.
Yep.
It's hard to write down specifically what happened with all these variables. And I am not dealing with aliens and crimes. Like,
no. Could you imagine though if the UFOs was the cause for the Circleville letters?
Yeah, I know, right?
They're just out there banging that sign down with the freaking booby track wire going to the gun.
Yeah, they're practicing their human writing by writing these letters and sending them to people.
That's what it is. They're practicing.
Yeah.
Maybe they're in every one of these. We didn't even think about that. Nick, what if they're the watchers too?
Well, I was just thinking that because those letters got into the box that had a camera pointed at it, and no one ever saw anyone.
No one ever saw them. It's because they're using that stealth technology, like that one that they found where the thing was looking over the fence over at the people.
I told you that thing earlier, how it would be funny if like an alien came down and like shot your buddy and then said, explain that. No one will ever believe you. What made me think of that is something that Bill Murray's been known to do is he'll like go to like regular people in restaurants and steal their French fries and say, no one will ever believe you.
Oh, that's funny.
That is hilarious.
That's really funny. Oh, Bill Murray.
Yep.
What a mess this story is. This story is an absolute disaster.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, this should have got, like, I know it's a big story, but it really should have got more attention than it even did.
Should have got way more attention.
Yeah, because this is like, normally abductions almost happen in a vacuum. Like, a guy's gone, no one even knows he's gone, and he's back before they know he's gone. So it's just one guy saying something. Or in the case of
5 days.
Right. Or in the case of the Allagash guys, they were still back on schedule, so they couldn't really say,
right,
we were gone. But this guy was gone 5 days. No drugs in his system. He's just coming out some random place. That's wild.
Right.
That's wild.
For sure. Now, these last 2 segments, Nick, he kind of goes back into his thought process, similar to when we talked about the Allagash.
Yeah.
And what happened. Are you curious about that?
Yeah, let's hear that. I want to make comparisons, so I'd like to hear that.
As word of Travis Walton's return spread, the media frenzy intensified. News trucks and reporters camped outside his home, desperate for answers to the mysterious disappearance and reappearance. The National Enquirer seized the opportunity, offering an exclusive interview in exchange for privacy and a thorough set of tests to uncover what had truly happened. Travis and his brother agreed, seeking both answers and respite from the chaos. Sitting down with the National Enquirer, Travis began to piece together his fragmented memories. Initially, all he could recall was seeing the craft and then finding himself on the road 5 days later. But as he spoke, flashes of those missing days started to resurface. He remembered stepping out of the truck, drawn to the mysterious craft despite his crew's desperate calls to come back. As he approached, the craft emitted a loud, eerie sound, and a bolt of energy struck him. His next memory was of being surrounded by figures in white lab coats and masks. He drifted in and out of consciousness, bathed in an orange light, convinced he was in a hospital. As his vision cleared, he saw a rectangular box on his chest, unlike any medical equipment he had ever seen. One of the figures leaned in closer, revealing itself to be a short, grayish being with slit-like eyes. Terrified, Travis pushed everything off him, ripping out cords and toppling off the table. He found himself in a small room with 3 humanoid creatures. In a desperate bid for survival, he grabbed the nearest instrument and began waving it wildly, ready to defend himself against these otherworldly beings. The creatures approached, studying him intently. Just as he was about to strike, they abruptly turned and left the room. Travis knew he had to escape. Mustering his courage, he left the room and walked down a hallway, finding another room with a single chair. As he searched for a way out, a figure in a spacesuit appeared, and despite the oddity, Travis felt a glimmer of hope.
Now, before we begin, Travis called for his inner spirit animal, which is Nick. He grabs the first thing he finds, like, bring it on!
We're doing it!
I knew you.
I just appeared a ghost next to him going, "The time has come, my child."
Travis Walton needs one of our shirts.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? If I thought there was any way to get one to him, I'd send him one. Be a man, fight a monster.
Be a man, fight a monster. Boys.
He's the definition of it.
What a crazy thing, though. The interesting thing about that segment, there's 2 things. I want to start with the easy one first. Let's say this happened to you.
Right.
You know no one's going to believe you.
Yeah, that's a given.
But the only way you can clear your name is with a ton of different tests and proof. The only person that comes to you is National Enquirer and says, if we can do your story, we'll give you any test that you need.
My thoughts about that.
What do you do?
Well, I mean, I guess they also paid him, I believe, right? Didn't they mention that?
I don't know.
Okay.
They didn't say that.
All right. I'm going to assume
I'm
they
sure
did.
they did.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume they did. My thoughts on this is, why is the National Enquirer even bothering? Like, they make up everything.
Story.
They could just make it up.
Yeah, but if you've got one case that sounds like it's legit and real.
Yeah, maybe people don't question Bat Boy as much, or...
Correct. Who's to say Bat Boy isn't real? Then?
Yeah, I forget what one he was in. I was always interested in that child.
Freaking Bat Boy was on like every month. He was on the front of that paper.
But I don't know if he was National Enquirer or Weekly World News. If you recall, they were like competing. for a while.
Probably both.
Maybe. But I mean, it's Travis's only chance. He's got to take it.
That's the way I look at it. No one's going to believe him anyway. The Office of National Enquirer, who cares? Actually,
it might help him in one way, because if he goes on the National Enquirer, people who haven't heard of him already are likely to think he doesn't even really exist. And this is just completely made up. So at least he's not going to get ridiculed.
Correct.
So
now the second part of the question, he had one puncture wound in his arm, but now he's got a triangular box sitting on top of his chest with wires.
Right.
All the aliens are wearing lab coats with masks. It's very interesting.
Well, he did mention it was unlike any medical thing he'd seen before, so it still kind of supports the medical thing.
That's true. That is true. I'll give you that. Just very curious.
Yeah.
There's one more segment that kind of chops this thing up and finishes it.
Yeah.
You want to do that and then give our final thoughts on this?
I sure do, because this was kind of a cliffhanger anyway, that last segment there.
Of course, that's what I do.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious why he got a sense of relief from that. So let's do that too.
We got to figure out how he gets out of this UFO.
Yeah.
The figure in the spacesuit led Travis through the corridors of the mysterious craft. Travis, desperate and confused, followed, pleading for answers, but receiving none. The man in the spacesuit seemed distant, his eyes unfocused, as if in a trance. They arrived at a large hangar filled with hovering spacecraft, identical to the one Travis had seen in the clearing. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Travis's guide led him to another room, this one bright and sterile. Inside, 3 more human-like figures in spacesuits awaited, standing next to another medical table. Despite their human appearance, something about them was unsettling. The figures restrained Travis and placed a gas mask over his face. Panic surged as he struggled, but he was too weak. As the gas took effect, his consciousness faded, and his last memory was of the road, the bright light above him, and the desperate call to his brother. When Travis finally reunited with his crew, he recounted his harrowing experience. Despite their initial skepticism, the men believed him, haunted by the part of the story they had witnessed themselves. The trauma of that night stayed with them, altering their lives forever. 40 years later, the memory remained vivid, the fear ever present. Despite passing multiple lie detector tests, the world remained divided, believers and skeptics locked in an eternal debate. The truth of Travis Walton's abduction remains a mystery. Modern technology supports their accounts, but the story challenges the boundaries of what we accept as reality.
I didn't catch in the last part that some of them were human-like, but the one that initially started leading him, he said, was a man who looked like he was in a trance. So these are like, oh, man, the implications of this are just rolling through my head now, that they might abduct people, never return them, and use them as labor or something.
Think about this. We talked about in the remote viewing episode that when they remote viewed, they saw what?
Like a lot of workers and hybrids or something. Wasn't it hybrids?
Well, what have we been talking about this entire time? What if these humans are re-sleeved?
Right. Yeah. The other thing that I think of as well is it makes me think of the black-eyed kids and the adults that travel with them. Like how they're sort of just like going through the motions of predefined scripts a lot of the times. There's a lot of parallels in all these things we look at.
every single time.
Yeah.
There's always parallels. Doesn't matter what the story is. You can always draw somewhat of a line, just like Mulder did in the X-Files.
Yeah.
From one thing to the next that is similar. These are all similar, very similar stories.
Yeah, I can see how it would be very easy for people to get caught up in this and start making connections where none exist, but there are definitely connections. But to sort out the right ones, that's the trick that we're working on.
That's the trick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
I find it very curious. I would be super curious what all of you guys think out there in podcast land. Do you think, and there's another hypothesis that I'm going to save for the next podcast that's mine, because I think it will fit all of these very interestingly.
Okay.
But what says y'all out there in podcast land? Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, what you waiting on?
Yeah.
Hit the doggone subscribe button.
That's right. And don't forget to leave your experiences on our website, deceptiverealitypodcast.com.
And submit a story.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. What you're going to do is there's going to be a submit a story at the very top of the right-hand corner. You're going to want to click in there. Tell us what you want to hear about. Because here eventually, Nick and I, like I say, we're going to have one podcast a month that we both work on, with the exception of this month. For you guys, what'll be this month?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be in July, because we've got that interview. So we're both going to know, obviously, about that one with the interview.
Yeah.
So
We'll count that.
We'll count that. Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed this podcast. If you enjoyed, like I say, leave it wherever you're at. Rate us. Stop being foolish.
Like, subscribe,
Until we see you on the next
notifications,
podcast.
all of it.
Hit that doggone subscribe button. Until we see you on the next podcast. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.